Oh no, now the thoughts are flowing. Okay, it's the queers as a group with their political interests that identify as a group with political interests, and it includes all the different members of the alphabet. So, why aren't they libertarian? Like, if you really think about it. Because then the idea is there would be no authority group that could do anything to them. That would be the key. That would be the first major thing. No authority group would be able to say to them, you have to do this or you can't do that. So they would knock that out right away. They would be, and they would be a large enough voting constituency from what we're told their numbers are by their activists, that this would be overwhelming. It would also then take money away from the concept of the war machine, because that's one of the big things about the libertarians, is they're like, unfortunately, even when you give to public schools, you know, you could want your taxes to go to public schools, but the politicians will use it for what they want to use it for primarily. So, you know, that's the libertarians' argument. So why isn't this political interest group libertarian? That would be in their political interests. But they're their own political interest group, with their own political activist organizations, with their own, and now we're seeing with an agenda that is extremely different than a lot of other voting groups across many, many states in the country. Why don't they just vote for people to leave them the fuck alone? That they could keep their money, do what they want with their money, can't be told what to do. They take all the money from all the angry men with the guns, who are killing all the blacks and browns as people of color with their giant penis energon, their giant, you know, wanting to have sex with women, M16 energy or whatever the complicated, extremely complicated argument is, that this is like sort of this desperate necessity. So why isn't this political interest group just simply libertarian? Because then they couldn't get control of the government and tell other people what to do. There wouldn't be that authority. So they're like, no. We do want to tell people what to do. It's just that we want to make sure we seize the reins of power, and the only group that could do this for us are the Democrats. They're the only party that really sees government as best done by, like, kind of this this group of public intellectuals, writers, lawyers, and like people, all these professional class people, who then get to sort of tell all the worker bees, because life is a beehive to a great extent, and their royalty in it. You see, like, that Enlightenment, Masonic type of imagery is more what I think that they see society as. That they agree far more with Rosicrucians and Freemasons on this kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of people, like, and I think, yeah, and it's mostly so. Actually, let me keep going, because this is really rolling in my mind. They're not libertarians. The queers aren't libertarians, because then they would eliminate the authority. They wouldn't be able to tell people what to do, because it's not genetic. But this is the whole thing. If it was genetic, this would be about making sure there are certain rights, because this would be the fundamental regard for the individual's properties as property. So, okay, I have this type of ethnic lineage that is a property of the person who is Donovan, you know, and that somebody doing something to me because of that property is seen as inherently wrong in this society and is illegal. and said, okay, well, this is the same thing with us. See, we can't help that we're compelled to have sexual feelings toward the same sex. Now, so one of the things is, it's like, oh, well, okay, well, no one can know if that's what you are, really. I mean, I guess then it would be that no one has the authority to, like, stop you from doing that however they would. And that, you know, there does pop up, you know, okay, well, there's, like, the areas will try to come up with laws on, you know, you're engaging in sodomy, you know. Gentlemen, you are engaging in sodomy. We're going to send you to the big house where you will engage in more sodomy. But, that's a crazy old truck. Wow. Okay. So, like, because there's this part of me rolling over, like, how are this idea that they get to now rewrite this concept of rights, because this isn't really a property of theirs. That, I mean, because what it is, it's talking about, like, sexual actions. And so then it's like, okay, so you're a political group based around, really, sex acts. I mean, and almost nothing more. Like, you don't speak a separate language. You're not from a separate land. You're made up of, you are admittedly made up of people of every ethnic group and kind of tier of society. So you're sort of like an ideological group. You don't appear to actually favor the idea of being left alone to do what you want, as if you're being stopped from doing what you want, which it seems that you're not being. In fact, not only that you're not being stopped from what you're doing, that for about the last generation, it's gone from people not caring to almost encouraging you to do what you want because, well, hey, we're us and we don't care. We're the United States, and people here don't really care about that kind of thing. You know, there's never even been this concept of, like, taking away citizenship or forced removal. But it seems that it's, yeah. So this idea of some kind of rights is almost a complete non-argument. Because otherwise this would be entirely libertarian in its nature. And that very specific violations of their rights could easily be named. But they can't do that, and they never do. So I'm really starting to, like, think, like, okay, no, now this group needs to be, like, kind of stripped bare. You know, like, what's going on with it? What's going on with the political interests here? Because all you would have to be, that really is, like, that hit me. So why aren't they just libertarians? Why aren't they just, like, saying, so don't bother us? They're not doing that. And then when they seem to organize, they seem to organize around centralizing power as much as possible. And trying to then work within the elite most levels of power and do things that are uniquely in the interests of their group. You know, like queering up the military or getting, like, trannies into high levels of government and things like that. Like, these really bizarre things that don't really make a lot of sense. They aren't like creating a city. You know, this isn't, and then there's that. Is there something that they really create? Like, is there something that they're really doing that's making this, like, why are we going so far out of our way to constantly try to be like, oh no, they're so special, don't offend them. You see, you're trying to end the lives of trans children, and then there's that one. Where are these queer children? No, they don't exist. These are children that so this is something that I have to bring up, because this has come up quite a number of times in like various conversations, that stuff about romance and men and women. And I've noticed that I'll have every once in a while like kind of the young queer person, like, you know, discussing this. And that one of the things though that has popped up a lot is the inability to properly interpret body language. And I notice this a lot among queer people, that they read people very, very wrong. Or sort of have like really mentalize like what they've experienced from somebody, to the point where I'm like, why the fuck is this person thinking this much about this nigga? You know, like, holy shit, this person was just like some passerby. Like, what the hell, you know? And just at a certain point, like, one of the things that started to hit me is there was stuff that, there was a couple of conversations I've had that I've really had to sit there and I'm like, no, I'm starting to get this idea that a lot of queer people are middle-class people who've in some way been very strangely socialized. Like, there's something about their sexual socialization has been very weird. And because a lot of them will have this, like, exceedingly juvenile way of behaving. And, you know, dressing like children way too late into life. And like children, not like a teenager, more like something like you would think like that's what a middle schooler would wear. Like that sort of, that would be haute couture if designed by middle schoolers. And people, oh yeah, because we're so fashionable and this and that. And it's like, no, there are people who legit have talent in understanding what makes a person look good when they dress up, or when, you know, an outfit that looks good. No. But you obviously stick out. Like, you stick out in this way, and it's weird. Like, you look like a weirdo. And I think that that's a part of it, is that a big part of the queer thing in many ways is also virgin weirdos, like people who nobody will fuck them, nothing will fuck them at all, because they're just very, very in some way unattractive, like an extremely diminutive man, you know, that he's built smaller than most women. Yeah, you know, you see this, you know, a lot with, you know, these women who are man size, you know, that, and they just can't, they don't seem to have a fundamental capacity to change that. It's a, you know, that is kind of a, almost like their body type set weight is not doing them favors. And so there's just a lot of this, and I'm like, no, this is, and it's not even really to be cruel. It's at a certain point, it's like, okay, what do we see? What, like, when they organize, what do we see? Then what do they do? When they're organized, what do they actually do? Oh, we put on parades. I mean, we put on parades and we're happy and we do things. And it's like, but also when you organize, you insist that you must have access to straight people's children, because there's no such thing genetically as being a homosexual. So it's straight people's offspring that you then want to discuss homosexuality with, as if it's a religion, like you're a bunch of Mormons or something. So more and more, almost everything about a sort of a cult is starting, like, if you were to be analyzing a kind of dangerous cult, or a culture that a part of it is this cultish part of the culture, that this is a key aspect of the behavior required for their little sect, that yeah, because they're not demanding the end of war. That I think is really important to kind of get this idea. Is while Donald Trump literally looked at all of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and said, no more forever wars. And every power in the government now, we find out that the Department of Justice itself was trying to help oust him using fake dossiers and shit. And that everybody, all the press was in coordination, and that this is treason. You know, that hundreds of people, thousands of people committed treason. In that regard, and that so a group that literally has a sort of an open disdain for populism as well. I mean, I'm really starting to try to think, what is it that they're trying to do that is good as a constituency? And that's good in a way that it would translate, like, to everybody, that everybody benefits. You know, once we stop doing this thing that's really bad, everybody benefits because we become a better people, but they can't really tell us what that is. They just can't. They can't put this in one sentence. They can't put in simple terms, you guys do this to us, will you please stop it? They can't do that because nobody's doing anything to them. Yeah, all right, there we go. Whew. Got some business done, so I'll talk to you guys later.